Hello and welcome to this video. The times they are changing. Who sung that? Well, yes, Bob Dylan. It's increasingly true that as time goes on, things change quicker, and especially in this day and age. So why is that important? What changes? Well, let's take a look at fashion. Now that looks really trendy, doesn't it? At the time, this was actually fashionable and trendy, and I'm sure if I went around in that today, then maybe I would get a bit of a look. But at the time, it was trendy and certainly in vogue. But how things have changed. Also true for ladies' fashions. If people wearing that today, maybe the knitted stuff, maybe not what we're looking at in terms of fashion today. Of course, unless you live in Scotland, but it'd be quite warm, I guess. Let's look at cars. I mean, how many people drive around in cars that look like that today? Things have changed. And if you consider Henry Ford, he said if you ask people what they want, they would have said a faster horse. So you need a visionary sometimes to look at things in a slightly different way. But if we do look at cars, then how many people do you know actually drive a car like this today? Words have also changed, what we say and what we mean. So, for instance, when I was younger, to be gay was to be happy and joyful and jolly, and well, you could still say that it's still the same today. However, the meaning of the words actually changed through rapid change. So gay means something completely different today than it did a few years ago. Now, most families, when they say, well, I'm going to have a joint, well, strictly speaking, they would be referring... A family would refer to a joint as something they had for Sunday dinner. But today, a joint means something completely different. Going all the way, well, when I was small, that meant you were going to go to the final destination on a bus. Thank you, Mr. Obama. If we have a look at what occurs with phones, I'm sure you may have seen that phones at one time were like this. They were what they call loop disconnect phones. You actually had to dial them. And they use very, very old telephone exchanges. If you ask many youngsters today about a phone, I mean, some kids now don't know what a landline is. I mean, they're actually quite rare. It's amazing how many households today don't have a landline. They just have a mobile. So we've gone from that to this, to a smartphone. And that's only in a very short period of time. I actually used to work for Nokia, and in the 90s, we were quite amazed when we had the first digital phone. And the fact that we could receive calls and texts were fantastic. But then they showed us this model, and they said, well, in years to come, people can have videos on it and so on. And a lot of people say, no, that'll never happen. What, downloading videos on a phone? That'll never happen. Well, look what has happened. We were looking at this in the 90s, but the visionaries had that vision, and now it's fact. And in fact, what I would say is there are three elements to truth. First one is disbelief. The second one is violent opposition. And then the third is, in fact, a general acceptance. Those people that remember the introduction of the microwave oven, for instance, would know that when a microwave oven first came in, there was a hell of a pushback on that. People were, worried about frying themselves and losing their hair and all sorts. But now every household seems to have a microwave. So that's the case in point with technology. Now, money. We used to have a thing called cash, and we still have to a certain extent. But do you notice now that you're getting penalised for using cash, especially in banks? If you want change, you have to pay for change now. And they're certainly discouraging people from actually putting cash, and there are limits to what you can have in cash as well. Without the bank asking you, where did you get the money? Even if you withdrew it from a cash machine in the bank next door, they still want to know how come you got that money and what you're going to do with it and stuff like that. So the control on cash is starting to change. But then we invented checks. Well, I say invented checks, but if you think, actually checks have been around since the Venetians, so actually in the 1500s. But I mean, generally in our banking system, they're quite a recent innovation. But I remember when I joined Nokia, I showed a lady an English checkbook because she was from Finland, and she turned around to me and said, "Oh, a checkbook. My grandmother used to use those." So Finland is quite a high-tech country. I mean, even in the 90s, that you could actually pay for a taxi using your debit card. They had data streams to the taxis. They were way ahead of us in terms of technology, and they still are. So I was quite disgruntled when a young lady said to me, "Yes, my grandmother used to have those." So you can see actually that checks are pretty old. And even this picture here, look, it's got Lloyd's TSB. Remember, it used to be TSB, then Lloyd's TSB, and now they're separated again. So things do change. Credit cards. Do you remember when there was a big push and big rush on credit cards? Then, of course, we had the credit crunch in 2007, 2008, and we all reverted back to debit cards because people just wanted cash on their cards. So what's happening to our cash? 2 in 5 of us carry less cash than we did 2 years ago. The average amount in people's pockets, purses and wallets is under a fiver for most, almost half. That's 47% of the UK according to MasterCard. So cash is becoming a thing of the past. We're certainly moving towards a cashless society. If anybody travels in Europe, people know countries like Sweden are certainly moving towards the cashless society, and we're being discouraged. Give an example, the American dollar. Years ago you could get a $100,000 bill, a $10,000 bill, $5,000 bill, a $1,000 bill, and so on. I think there was even a $1 million bill, though I never saw one. Now, what's the highest denomination you can get in American currency? A $100 bill. In other words, even the USA don't want large amounts of money because it's not secure. Anybody could pinch it, but also it's just a pain to operate. Every pound or dollar used to be backed by the same value of gold. That was absolutely true. I mean, it might stagger you to know that of all the countries in the world, there are in fact only 2 that have a currency now backed by gold, and they are Singapore and Bahrain. UK and USA, for instance, 2 major currencies, they're not backed by gold. I mean, Richard Nixon stopped that in 1971 in the midst of the Vietnam War. He stopped it, and ours isn't backed by gold at all. So what's the paper worth? Well, it's actually worthless. Really, it's not backed by any asset. So that's what we call fiat money. People talk about fiat currency, nothing to do with the Italian car manufacturer. A fiat currency means that it's not backed by gold. So where next? Think about something now. How much of your money do you actually see and handle? It's not much, is it, really, when you think about it? How much you actually see? When you're doing your calculations and in your bank, how much actually do you see? Well, in reality, it's all done electronically, isn't it? So just think about it. Your money is already digital. It's already digital. Only 3% of currency in the world is actually physical currency. The rest is digital. So the future, are we going to have more digital or less digital? I think you agree that the answer is more digital. Aha. So Bitcoin, what about Bitcoin? It's the first cryptocurrency. Now, in 2010, a Norwegian bought $27 worth of Bitcoin. It actually amounted to 150 Norwegian kroner. Then, when he checked, because he forgot about it, these 5,000 Bitcoin were actually worth $887,000. So he was able to buy his flat and the like with that. So he was staggered. So in 4 years, it had gone up a lot. Now you might think that can't be true, but it is actually true. If you Google Bitcoin Norwegian $27, the article in the Guardian that was published, well, you can see it for yourself. So you thought it wasn't going to catch on. Many people thought it was a joke when it came on. Many people didn't catch on. They thought, nah, it's a joke. This electronic thing, that'll never work. But actually, it's been going for several years now, and actually its current value is around about $900. So not only does it work, it's actually put the cat amongst the pigeons as far as the banking community are concerned. So wrong is catching on, and it's caught on. So what's good about Bitcoin? It has a limited number, 21 million. So you could class it as an asset. So the more you use it, the more the prices rise. In other words, it's being traded at the moment, and it's subject to market forces of supply and demand. It's decentralized, and it's not controlled by your bank, which is a good thing given what's happened with the banks. There are no transaction fees, even for small amounts. And it's quick, well, quickish, compared to a bank. I mean, you're talking 5 to 7 working days to transfer any money from one country to another. It's very secure. So why don't we all use it now? Well, the thing is, there's no true usability. Now, what that means is that you can't spend it, in other words. Transactions take a minimum of an hour to set up. So basically, you need 6 encryptions with a blockchain. That sounds a bit technical, but basically, the blockchain renews every 10 minutes. So basically, the blockchain is like the middleman for a transaction. It's the secure conveyor belt which operates the transaction. So it can take a bit of a while. And your bank won't tell you about it as well. They're not going to highlight the blockchain and Bitcoin because it actually does them out of a job. It gets rid of the middleman. So a bit of a paradigm shift is coming. So what is a paradigm shift? And a paradigm shift is a time when the usual and accepted way of doing or thinking about something changes. That's a paradigm shift. And what a lot of people are noticing now with a cryptocurrency and the way that money is going to be working, then that is a paradigm shift. It's a mindset shift. So money in the future, what's that going to look like? Digital currency is coming. Now this is going to be for the mass market. Whether we like it or not, it's here, and it's going to be made available to the mass market. There are 2 options. You can sit and wait for it to happen, like Yogi Bear there, or you can learn how you can benefit from the beginning of this paradigm shift, this tsunami of change. And if you look at this tsunami, it is a financial tsunami as well, and you can benefit from it. So that is it. Thank you very much indeed for watching this video, and please contact me if you want to find out more, if you have any questions.